Hey TV fans, Bored Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 Episode 7. The episode is called What is Starfleet? And is it the worst episode of Strange New Worlds? It may be the worst episode this season, although I wasn't so keen on the murder mystery one, so that's definitely a contender for me as well. Get a documentary, because this has been teased before. We've seen Beto, who is Erica's brother. He's been hanging around with this camera filming footage, so they literally do an episode which is done in the style of a documentary, with him interviewing people at various stages. The style of the episode is very much like a documentary, and he starts questioning certain things about the Enterprise, duration in general, and we do get like an actual mission, a plot, which is then they pick up this species from a planet who is seen as like dangerous, so one of the enemy, but this, I think it's like a doctor gets injured, so they have to treat him. But then you get all sorts of deliberations over whether they, well, first of all, if they should treat him, and then if they do, what are the risks of letting him back out into the universe? Because if he falls into the wrong hands, it could be dangerous. Uhura plays a big part in the episode because she has to communicate with this culture, almost at the risk of her life. At one point she has a headset on and she's communicating with it, and things get very intense. And of course she's had a bit of a vibe with Beto, so that becomes a big part of the drama, because he starts questioning things. He starts questioning whether the Enterprise is more of a warship because of some of the violence, because of some of the weapons and the way they do engage in battle. So he's almost looking at it from a very modern day stance, thing on war in the past, where he's interviewing his sister and also in Bangor. Question like, is it really an open thing where you can question authority in Starfleet and on the ship? Because a couple of different people just say that we take the captain's lead and that's it. Like Una at one point says about how it's not her place to ask questions. A good example of this gimmick is in the West Wing in season 5. They do like a gimmick episode such as this, where the whole thing is the documentary and it's a day in the White House, and they use it to raise certain things and open up certain things, and that's a good example. It's an episode I didn't always like. Got into that episode more the more I've seen it. So, but I think there's a couple of problems with this episode. First of all, it has a couple of good ideas, as I just outlined there, but it doesn't really go far enough with those ideas. It feels like at the end of the day, things are questioned, and it just feels like they're resolved very quickly. Like, it doesn't feel like it really goes that far with them. It doesn't feel like Pike and his crew are really challenged that much. It feels like this very clean cut. By the end of the episode, Beto is going to learn a little bit of a lesson, because he does sort of overstep his mark a bit. Uhura calls him out on a couple of things, and it just feels like a bit of a neat and tidy thing by the end, where it's like, okay, he was wrong in some aspects. Like, there are a couple of points that are conceded by the crew and that, but at the end of the day, it's more, this is a lesson for Beto, than things aren't quite what they seem. And I know, like, I've praised this show for being more episodic and being like, okay, getting back to some of the nitty gritty of what made Star Trek work. And that's definitely true, but it just feels like this is an example where, because the episode is only 40 minutes long, and maybe it would have overstretched it a bit if it was longer, but I think it could have benefited from being a bit longer to like play with some of these ideas. And a lot of the best Trek episodes, even though they are episodic, it's sort of like, it does feel like there's a serious challenge or a serious threat, and you kind of go through the ringer throughout the episode before they come up with a resolution. And of course on this show they're doing like a mixture of serialized and episodic, so you can still leave certain things that are hanging. But that was one problem. I didn't really find the drama and the way they played with the issues that compelling. It just seemed a little bit clear cut and okay, message of the week, that kind of thing. Well, there's two more problems. Another problem is that I did find the answers a bit too glib when he was interviewing certain members of the crew. Like, I thought Mbenga's answers was just a bit too glib and short, and I think maybe the episode's getting at then, if certain things are edited in a certain way, then you can make anyone look like anything. Just thought these characters wouldn't be so taken in that easily. Like, I didn't think they would at least give more diplomatic answers that maybe were proper answers, rather than completely shying away from things. Like, with Mbenga, I kind of get that he wants to put this stuff behind him, because at one point he has a line about how it's not the Doctor's place to comment on these things. And there's certain things like with Spock and Lan, because they talk about some of their experiences with the Gorn. Spock talks about in the past how he was injured very badly. Lan and Spock stuff is quite good in the episode. It's quite a good foundation for what the episode is doing. But yeah, overall I just found some of the answers from the crew not really that compelling to watch or listen to. It's almost like, okay, I can kind of see what the episode is saying, and I can kind of see why they would say that, but it just felt like it was a little too contrived for the sake of drama. Like, it didn't really feel that authentic to what some of them would say. Erica, her response is definitely authentic. Like, there's no question about that. Beto does act a bit like a little shit in this episode. He does act a bit like, okay, he's stirring up crap with his camera. He's trying to poke at things. He's trying to get uncomfortable truths out. And he is quite annoying. Like, he does act as a little bit of the villain in some ways, because there's a scene where he's filming Una and Pike when they're in the room discussing strategy, and they're kind of debating the issue of like letting this species go. But he's there in the background, so they can't see him. They don't know that he's filming them, because he's already been kicked out of like the room at least twice in the episode. So that sort of stuff makes you not really like him as a character and his actions. It's almost like they should have gone for something a little bit more in between, where it was like, okay, you can see what he's doing, you can see his point of view, but maybe he's acting a bit rashly. And by the end of the episode, I think that's what we're meant to think, especially with Uhura's speech to him. And the turning point is that when he sees Uhura basically very wounded from her experiences, and she's really put it on the line, and that's someone he cares about, so that sort of snaps him out a bit and makes him think a bit more. But yeah, I think the main problem is we don't know who Beto is, like, that much, because he was only introduced at the start of this season. His first big episode was the wedding episode, and then he featured again a few episodes later, but he hasn't really featured that much. Like, we've only seen him in some quick scenes here and there, and we know that they were going to return to this. But I think that's a big problem of the episode, because they're trying to make us think about these things and about these issues with Starfleet and the Enterprise. And I think in a way you're meant to be like, okay, Beto is bringing up some good points here. But the trouble is, I think you need to know the character more and care about the characters more. Like, from my point of view, watching it, you're naturally going to take the side of the Enterprise and the crew there over Beto. So it just doesn't work as a setup for me. Like, he was acting like an annoying little shit and like assuming a lot. And another thing about not really knowing him is he meant to be some kind of like a journalist, some sort of a hard-hitting journalist? Like, he just seems to me like a cast-off from like a CW show. Yeah, it's like, are we meant to take this guy seriously as a journalist? But again, if you knew more about him, like if you got to know him a bit better before this episode, then that would help. But because we haven't, then I kind of don't care about his documentary or his viewpoint on this. And some people have issues with Star Trek doing this type of episode. I don't really have that problem. Like, this show has done many different gimmicks, and I'm fine with them doing this one. And some of the themes seem relevant. It's just I don't think they tackled them that well. So the big crunch point is that Uhura, after all this has gone down, sits him down and she says to Beto, had good intentions, but you were kind of sneering us a bit, and like you came in to this very aggressive. And she brings up the point that maybe he's mad at the Federation for Erica joining in, and he's mad because she got injured with the whole Gorm thing. But she says, well, that was her choice, just like it's my choice. And we weren't made to do anything. And yeah, she says, then maybe you came in with that agenda and that's clouded your judgment. And he sort of concedes that. But again, I kind of don't care. Even though she's making maybe a valid point in theory, we've not really seen any of this. Like, in a way, this motivation from him comes out of the blue, because we've never really seen him have those sorts of feelings. Like, he's just a bit of a blank slate, and there's been a couple of like decent comedy moments with him. As I said, I am worried about him and Uhura going down a romantic path, if they are going down that path, because I said that back in Wedding Bells Blues, like, I don't know if we necessarily need that stuff. It was a little bit of a dud of an episode. I don't think it's as bad as some people are making out. I think I would go about 6 out of 10 on it, because it's a lesser episode for the show, and it's not great overall. Luckily it is only 40 minutes, but as I said, it could have benefited maybe. It might have been a stronger episode if they'd given it a bit longer, but yeah. A forgettable episode for me, not one I'm really going to invest in or get much out of on a rewatch. But that's Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 7. What is Starfleet? And that's the thing, is we get almost like a promotional thing at the end, and kind of demonstrating that, hey, this is Starfleet, this is what we do. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media. I will return soon with a review of episode 8, because we are getting near the end of the season. Speaking of sci-fi, I'm also covering Alien Earth. So if you want to check out those reviews on the channel, you can do. And just for horror movie fans, it is a big thing for the channel in October. Then I do extra horror movie reviews. So I make it a bit of a monthly celebration. And you can check out that stuff as well coming up on the channel soon. But thanks everyone, like and subscribe. And I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.